Hello, everyone, and welcome to Snap Take. This is Glazer of Snap Judgments, the official podcast of Marvel Snap Zone. Today, we've got a tournament that we are covering. This is Snap Masters, an invitational that features some of the biggest and best Snap players in the world in a tournament. We're starting off showing you, not even covering fully this thena deck. We're going to cover at least 6 decks fully and 13 decks in total. This deck didn't actually make the top 4. I just think it's super cool, and W is the best deck builder in Marvel Snap, so I thought I'd show this deck. If you'd like me to cover this, I would be happy to tomorrow, so please let me know in the comments to this video. But we're going to get started covering this. We've also got our giveaway winners today, so stay tuned. So here's how this tournament worked. The 12 players ended up making the cut for today. There was an 18-player round robin to get down to 12. The players that made the top 12 were Yakublevich, that's a Team FAK player, one of the top teams in Marvel Snap. Kazuma, an Indonesian player who's really, really impressive at Marvel Snap. Roy, a player I'm not especially familiar with, but I believe he's also Indonesian. Johnson, the famous Korean player. Sanutora, who just shows up and kicks butt in tournaments all the time. Our friend EvaZord, coming from Brazil. Desmond, another amazing Korean player. W, you know W. We just looked at W's deck, the best deck builder in the history of Marvel Snap, often breaks the meta. Sizer, another one of our friends, founder of an alliance that has something I will be announcing about relatively soon. The great Lamby series, the GOAT of all time in Marvel Snap. FAK Andre Var, another member of Team FAK, and of course Husky Puppies of the general group that involves Woody and those players. So these 12 players competed. A winner's bracket starts for top 8 and the loser's bracket for the people who lose originally, and then the next 4 players. The lower bracket final was best of 3 and the finals was best of 5. A winning deck couldn't be repeated in the same game. So in order to win the tournament, you had to win with all 3 of the decks you brought. Everyone brought 3 decks. For Swiss, 1 was banned. Sorry, for the top 8, 1 was banned, and then as it went forward, there was no banning. You just had to win with the decks. So we're going to look at the top 4 players and their decks, which is 12 decks in total, and the top 6 decks are going to get full guides. If you're interested in Snap Masters, if you love top-level Marvel Snap, and if you've never watched a Marvel Snap tournament, you don't know what you're missing. It's such amazing high-level competition. You should keep an eye on Twitter at Horizon Snaps, and over on YouTube, the tournament is posted. It's not in English, but if you've played Marvel Snap, you know what's happening. It's youtube.com/msf.soul_intent. Props to Soul Intent, and thanks so much for helping me get all this information together. Hey, before we get to the decks, please hit that sub button. We are aiming to hit 15,000 subs by the end of the year, and your sub would mean the world to us. We give you 7 days a week of Marvel Snap content no one else in the community does. We bring you decks from the top of the Infinite Leaderboard. We bring you top tournament decks. We keep you ahead of the curve in Marvel Snap so that you can achieve your goals in the game, whether that be infinite, high infinite, or infinity borders. Whatever it is you are looking for will help you out. Just please hit that sub button, and if you're willing to, like and comment so that you can help us fight that YouTube algorithm on our way toward our goals. We also give away 10 season passes at the start of every season, 10 right before the season starts, 10 the first week of the season. We're going to announce 5 giveaway winners later. In order to win, all you have to do is the following. First and foremost, sub to the channel. Then later on this video, I'm going to ask you to leave a comment. Obviously, you also should like it, please, if you're entering a giveaway for me. But I'm going to ask you to leave a very specific comment. You answer the question that is later in the video, and as long as you're subbed, you're entered to win a season pass. Every single video over the week, Monday to Friday of this week, carries a season pass in it. All you have to do is sub and comment on each video. We all good? Hopefully so. All right, next up, we have the top 4 player, Desmond. You can find Desmond on YouTube at Desmond Korea. Desmond is one of the most influential and impactful players in Marvel Snap that you've never heard of. He is genuinely phenomenal. He played absolutely incredibly, and perhaps even deserved to finish in 3rd. The top 4 were the money placing places. He beat W and Yakublevich on his way to the top 4. He lost to Ava in round 2 of the winner's bracket after knocking out Jakub. Yakublevich has been really hot, and I expected Yakublevich to go really far in this tournament. Desmond ended up with his second loss to Lamby, and like there was an all-in game, and Nocturne completely ended up screwing over Desmond in an otherwise unlosable game. So, I mean, Desmond is just a phenomenal player. If you ever hear of a Desmond deck, see Desmond playing, you should pay attention. This is genuinely one of Marvel Snap's best. Desmond's 3 decks were first this mill deck that I think is very cool, and I have every intention of trying. Again, if any of these decks are things that you would like me to give a full feature to, let me know in the comments. That's not like the giveaway comment, but let me know in the comments if anything of the 7 decks that we're not doing full guides for, you'd like a full guide for. If a bunch of people request a deck, it'll happen over the course of the week. This seems like one of the coolest mill decks around. I really like the idea of milling out most of your opponent's cards with Yondu actually makes some sense here. Yondu, Cable, Zemo, and Gladiator, and then having the Black Bolt Stature combo in order to say you also have one less card now. Then now I can end the game by playing Stature with Cosmo or Stature with Shang-Chi, depending on priority, and winning the game that way. You can also Shang early, and if you Shang early, then Grandmastering Shang-Chi is extremely powerful. Geo taught me this the other day, that it is one of the best ways for bounce decks to just absolutely own destroy. You just set up a Shang into Grandmaster to end the game. Make sure you throw priority, and you should be able to win because you just got so much power elsewhere. Really cool, really powerful stuff. This deck is very cool. One of my favorites of the tournament. Next up, we have Loki Arishem. We're going to look at multiple Loki Arishem lists. Some of them are even cutting Blob now. Blob's most recent nerf seems to have finally taken it out of the deck, or at least taking it out of some versions of the deck. We're going to see other versions that get Blob. But this is a very powerful version. It is really, really simple, if a little more bottom heavy than usual, right? You've got Legion for the scams and Nick Fury for extra chances at the 6s. But outside of that, like, it's just Goliath and Mockingbird at the top, and Mockingbird is very likely to be cheaper. So if you don't see Goliath or Nick Fury, there's not a lot of top end here. I think that's a really interesting place to go with Arishem. Mobius makes a lot of sense here because Arishem has become right now a Loki deck. Loki in Arishem is completely insane. It's the single best card in the deck. And if your opponent gets it and you can Mobius them, then you're in much better shape. You're still in trouble if it's an Arishem mirror, but in general, it gives you a much better chance at winning and competing. Next up, we have a Darkhawk deck. This is a fairly standard Darkhawk list, the way things are going right now. We've got our core Rockslide Darkhawk thing. This is not a Mystique list. It's using Cassandra Nova as that extra bit of power. Cosmo is your real control piece, no Shang-Chi, and you're just trying to steal cubes on Copycat. I'm going to be honest, this is not my favorite list of the ones we're seeing. It's really strong into Arishem, but outside of that, I feel like it gives up a fair bit of percentage points into a lot of the rest of the meta by only really having that, if you don't get like Thena going, by only really having Darkhawk as a big thing, a lane winner. Alright, if you're interested in watching these decks and more be played, please check out the stream team. Today is Monday, so the great Gregor2424 will be streaming these decks. Please also check out the King of Canada, who will have a YouTube video with these decks live relatively soon. Every day, we have someone playing the decks from these videos, so check them out on Twitch and YouTube. Alright, top 4. Next player is Lamby series. You should know Lamby. Lamby's the best player in Marvel Snap history. He's mostly been playing a game called Parallel, which is like a Bitcoin card game. You farm Bitcoin by playing. I don't know. The game honestly did not look especially interesting to me, so I didn't worry about it. I'm going to be completely honest. But Lamby plays a lot of that game. Even though he's not focused on Marvel Snap competitively anymore, he is still absolutely killing it whenever he does compete. Lamby started in the losers bracket. He didn't do as well in the Swiss rounds, but in the round robin rounds, but he's ended up beating Sanatora, W, Johnson, and Desmond, which is just 4 crazy names to beat in one tournament. Sanatora is a great player. Again, disappears, shows up in tournaments, dominates. We have W, that amazing deck builder, and Johnson and Desmond are both Korean players who are at the absolute top of the world in terms of both influence and skill. Lamby has knocked Johnson out of so many tournaments. It's ridiculous. Lamby ended up losing to Kazuma in 2 straight rounds in the best of 3. Honestly, Kazuma kind of kicked Lamby's butt. He just seemed to have had his number. All right, Lamby also brought an Arishem list. In my head, I think of this as like classic Arishem. I ended up watching a lot of this on Sizer's stream. Sizer ended up streaming the Russian version of the stream from Be Happy. And a lot of top players were there. Dachio was there. Derek was there. He's Havoc OP, the number one player in the Infinite Leaderboard. And Derek kept insisting that Lamby deserved to lose for sticking Valentine in this deck, that Valentine had no business in this deck. I kind of love that idea. I also sort of understand it. If you're going to go with the Sandman deck, then either Dr. Doom... Vision's great here, but Dr. Doom, Claw, and even Nick Fury makes some more sense than Valentina here. But Valentina it is. That's where Lamby went with it. Outside of that, this is, again, like just fundamentally the standard Loki list. What's taken out here from the previous Loki list is Copycat is added, and then because Dr. Octopus and Leech no longer make sense, it's just Sandman and Vision replacing those two cards. Very, very standard list, very effective. Arishem is still extremely strong, even in a major tournament where so many things were meting against the card. Next up, we have the Sandman Patriot. Sandman Patriot is, I think, one of the meta decks right now. Lamby's version runs Claw, which I think is an interesting inclusion. This is sort of an old school version. There's a lot of newer things happening in current versions of the deck that we'll take a look at later. But this is like a Ravona version that's got the Mystique Patriot Iron Man thing, so it can Mystique either Patriot or Iron Man or even Blue Marvel in some situations for a lot of extra power. In an Ultron meta that's really strong, Onslaught is also here, which is an addition with Wave in the deck. But what's important here with that Onslaught is Doom is in most of the modern versions. This one is more all in on Patriot than is traditional for the deck at this point, but it does have the Sandman thing going. And it's a really effective list. You're not going to be sad for playing this. This is, again, putting out a ton of power in really, really difficult ways for your opponents to interact with. Lamby's final deck, and the final deck we're going to talk about before we get to giveaway winners, and before we get to the full decks that we're covering, 6 frickin' decks, is the Little Movers deck. This is the Sizer style Little Movers deck. This runs fewer ones than Sizer likes to, but it's the same concept. Sizer basically started playing this, and relatively quickly it became a meta thing that a lot of people are playing. Barzy ended up playing a ton of it as well, and became number 1 on the Infinite Leaderboard. It's a very, very powerful list. This list was sort of built specifically to counter Doc Ock. Doc Ock was in both Clog lists and Arishem lists and was fundamentally unbeatable in those lists until this list came out and gave a ton of counterplay into that Dr. Octopus play. It's still one of the best decks in the game. KMBest thinks that this is the best thena shell. I'm not entirely sold on that anymore. I think it might be, but I think that's far, like, I think there's slightly more tweaked versions of this. Still, since Lamby fundamentally invented the Silky Smooth archetype along with Owl God or Owl Dog Owl last August, it's really cool to see him go back to the archetype. Alright, second place, EvaZord. Wait, we got giveaway winners after Eva. Okay, my bad. So twitch.tv/EvaZord if you want to check Eva out. Eva is an amazing Brazilian streamer and friend of the show. Eva beat Sanatora, Desmond, Kazuma, mostly using Phoenix Force early on until the elimination rounds. Until the finals. Really, really kicked butt going, sort of tearing through these players. Again, Sanatora, Desmond, and Kazuma are phenomenal players. His play in the finals was stellar. He had to get a win with Phoenix Force, but he ended up losing 2 in a row. We'll talk about how that happened when we get to the finals, when we get to the winner of the game. He lost 4 straight games, went up in the finals to RNG, things like Danger Room, Zola hits, needing to top deck 1 card with 3 left in his deck, so on and so forth. He absolutely had no business winning game 4, but like, if you play that game 5 100 times, I think he wins like 80, so it was terrible RNG that Eva didn't get this, and Kazuma playing to his outs completely, brilliantly. Happy birthday, Eva. It was Eva's birthday at the same time as the tournament. He got off the tournament and went to go eat cake and relax. So I hope Eva had a wonderful birthday. Do me a favor, go check out and give Eva a follow on Twitch for that birthday. All right, our giveaway winners for week 1 are Stephen Birdson, the 8th Sage. I am Lilsey, Janksy XY, sorry, Ichini, Anaki Sabati. please email me at the email, find me on Discord, or find me on Twitter in order to claim your giveaway. If you would like a gwenpool instead of a Kate Bishop, let me know, but you have to do so today, or obviously it'll be too freaking late. All right, Ava's first deck is Ongoing Tribunal. We've seen this list before, right? Like, this is not a new list. There is not a card that came out. Like, what is the newest card that came out in this list? Ravonna, literally last September. Iron Lad and Living Tribunal are far older cards, and there's nothing else even high series. Tribunal and Ravonna are, however, requirements. Luckily, they're both Series 4 cards right now. Iron Lad is not a requirement. Iron Lad could be Crystal. It's a little bit worse, but perfectly playable. And now it's time for the question that we're going to ask. My question to you is, we've already seen 2 Arishem decks. We're going to see at least one more. I'm not going to say if we're seeing 1 or 2 more, but we're going to see at least one more. Where do you think Arishem is in the meta right now? What do you think of Arishem in the meta? How powerful do you think it is? Do you think it's more balanced, less balanced than it was before? Where do you land on the card Arishem right now? I'm just curious what the popular opinion is, what the consensus of my viewers is. Thanks. All right. This is basically the old Hella Enjoyer list. Hella Enjoyer fundamentally created lists like this. Well, Safety had something similar, but Hella Enjoyer took it to the top of the meta last December, and then it was a meta deck for quite a while. Hella Enjoyer ended up leaving the game. We miss you, Hella Enjoyer. Hopefully you're doing well wherever you are. So turn 1, you pass. Turn 2, you play Ravonna Renslayer. Turn 3, you can wave into Onslaught or Tribunal, or you can drop Magic. Turn 4, Iron Man, Magic, or Jubilee. Jubilee helps you dig. It depends what's in your hand, whether you Jubilee or not, but if you've got enough good stuff still in your deck, feel free. Sometimes Super Scroll is completely OP. You can tell your opponent's playing a lot of Ongoing. Feel free to drop Super Scroll in those cases. Turn 5, Iron Man, Iron Lad, or Jubilee. This is your last chance at Magic, or Sarah if Onslaught. Turn 6 and 7 are Onslaught Tribunal. If you don't have that Onslaught, feel free to Mystique that Iron Man and still drop Tribunal on it, and you'll be totally fine. Cool. This is extremely, extremely strong and really needs to be countered to be beat. One of the main counters that this runs into is Nocturne, because Magic is extraordinarily important in terms of getting this going. If you can get Magic protected, this is extremely hard to beat without running into Enchantress or Rogue. So there's not a lot of Enchantress or Rogue. We haven't seen any yet outside of Arishem decks. So Magic is really powerful, and this deck is really powerful. Just be wary of Nocturne. If you can play it after your opponent, already plays their Nocturne, then you're in really great shape. Next up, we have EvaJunk. This is the standard EvaZord list. We have covered this list like 3 or 4 times on the channel in various incarnations. Dr. Octopus was in the list. Everyone thought this was dead without Doc Ock. Apparently, reports of this deck's demise were exaggerated because this finished really, really well. Watching Eva play this was a thing of beauty. This deck is also quite good into the Sandman stuff, largely because Man-Thing completely wrecks the Patriot and Ultron clone type cards. All right, Jeff, Copycat, and Nocturne are all very good here. Jeff and Nocturne in particular because they move, and being able to reposition power away from your negative power if you don't get out Luke Cage is important, but mostly just good cards. White Widow, Baron Mordo, Cassandra Nova, Polaris, Juggernaut. Take your pick here in order to replace them. Red Hulk can be Magneto. It's weaker, but not terribly so. And you do need Cannonball, Agent, US Agent, and Man-Thing. US Agent and Man-Thing are sort of like the point of the deck, and Cannonball is just very, very strong. All right, so this is Ava's trademark deck. It was great to see him play it and absolutely take out the Patriot list with it in the finals. Like, I don't think this is a tier 1 deck. I think Ava's just absolutely an expert with this list. So turn 1, you pass. Turn 2, Invisible Woman over US Agent, which is more or less equal to Jeff. Turn 3, get out Luke if it's safe. Or you can play Luke behind Invisible Woman. Or you can just drop Nocturne. Turn 4, you would like Man-Thing, almost always. You can also make a turn 3 play, but Man-Thing is really, really perfect for turn 4. Turn 5 is usually a 3 and a 2. Invisible Woman and Shadow King together are great here, or you can put Shang or Cannonball behind Invisible Woman, as that makes sense. Turn 6 is Red Hulk or a control piece, which is Shang-Chi with US Agent or Shadow King, or one of the smaller ones, Shadow King or US Agent, with Luke Cage. And any of that should be enough to win if you can position as well as Ava. Sorry, sometimes it's Sage behind that Invisible Woman too. So really, really, really strong list. Lots to like here. Really powerful. You also cannot replace Sage, sorry. This is worth playing, worth checking out. Like, but you're going to lose while you learn it. This is like a big time lose while you learn it deck. There's nothing really to say or do about that. EvaZord is great with this deck because he's got hundreds, if not thousands of reps. So if you know this deck inside and out, you're going to steal a lot of cubes because it's extraordinarily hard to play around US Agent, Man-Thing, while also playing around Sage and Shadow King, while also playing around Shadow King and Shang and Cannonball, while also getting hit with Sage and Red Hulk. So good luck. Also, the moving power of Jeff and Nocturne. So, like, this is a very, very good deck, but extraordinarily hard to. And finally, we have Ava's Phoenix Force. I'm just going to say this honestly. I was having a conversation with the Team FAK organizers of this when they were setting it up. And they were like, who do you think the best players are? And I listed some people, and Ava was at the top of the list. I think Ava's one of the best players. So Ava ended up invited, and when I chatted about Ava with this, Ava was like, you know Phoenix Force is the best tournament deck, right? And I was like, no, I don't. And he was like, yeah. In tournaments, it's just so hard to beat. Even like Shadow King decks, it's got very few bad matchups. It's very powerful. Okay, great. Ava rocked with this deck all the way to the finals, and I think could have won if not for some really, really terrible RNG. Genuinely stellar deck and stellar play. The motto of Phoenix Force decks has long been We Buddha. That comes from Jeet, who is widely considered the best Phoenix Force player ever in Marvel Snap. Wrote up a whole document on how to play Phoenix Force. Ava does not Buddha. He just plays the damn cards. It's wild. Alright, so Ghost Spider and Phoenix Force are required. Those are 2 Series 4 cards, though. This is like... Oh, and sorry, Nico is likewise required. So everything here is like actually needed. Nico's like stellar in this list. Everything here is actually absolutely needed. I'm really sorry, but it is relatively cheap. 2 Series 4 and 1 Series 5 in order to get a very, very competitive list. All right, so this is the best Brazilian snapper, and this is how you play his list. So Nico, if you have Destroy, otherwise you generally pass. Turn 2 is Torch, Multiple Mana, Dagger, which you then destroy. Turn 4 is, generally speaking, Phoenix Force to get a Torch, Multiple Mana, Dagger. If you don't have that, please drop Shuri. Turn 5, you can still play Phoenix Force if you have Ghost Spider. If not, you're dropping Nimrod on Shuri. Then you're going to eat Nimrod twice, or you're going to Zola. And then you're going to win, usually. Really, really strong how this works. The one thing to be wary of, at least in my opinion, is that White Widow is in a lot of decks. So if you drop Dagger and they can White Widow that lane because you don't have priority, it is worrisome. So sometimes if it's Dagger, it might be worth to like put the +2 power on it with Nico right away. Dagger is choice 3, generally speaking, for this list. Really, really powerful stuff, though. Extremely good play. This had almost no chance into... Well, we'll see what list absolutely ate it up from the player who won, because this is, again, the list that was tried 2 different times and just had to get 1 win. The winner is Kazuma, the Indonesian player. You can find Kazuma at twitter.com/Rexzul97. Kazuma played phenomenally. I think Ava should have won based on decks and RNG, but Kazuma played so well. There's no, like, I don't think Kazuma made any play that where there was a better play. Just genuinely, absolutely, consistently top-notch play, especially when unfavored and with Kazuma's back against the wall when he was down 2-1. Just playing with his, and then like being down, I believe it was 7-2 in the last round, and being able to come back from that, just constantly playing to the perfect out, and then RNG shown in his favor. Lost to Ava once in the winner's bracket, which got her hurt, and then never lost again until the finals. Lost those 2 rounds in the finals, but won 3, and congrats to Kazuma on an awesome win. Let's look at Kazuma's decks. First, we have this Arishem list. This list seemed insane to me. Like, this list seems so strong to me. It is a lot of power all over the frickin' board. Shadow King is stellar. Again, no blob, so that if you get Loki'd, you're not giving a Shadow King to your opponent. Sorry, you're not giving a blob to your opponent, or you're not giving them a Shadow King to eat your blob. Copycat's like just in almost all the decks right now. Agent Coulson's amazing. Loki's amazing. Keeping Coulson makes all the sense in the world. Claw is just a lot of power. Vision is a lot of unpredictable power. There's a lot of Sandman in the meta, so Doom is incredible. Alioth helps stomp things out. Magneto to clog things. Just beautiful list. Tons of synergy, but just really good cards across the curve. Copycat can be Nocturne, Juggernaut, Polaris, or Spider-Man. Alioth can be, can also be Nick Fury. Alioth can be Blob. No, that's just replacing the Series 5 card. Sorry. Mockingbird is too good now in this list. Just a requirement. There's nothing else to replace it. And I think Loki is the best card in the deck. This was the best deck I saw all day. It felt like when this was played, it felt like the opponent had no chance. So turn 1, you pass. Turn 2, Loki over Coulson. Again, Loki is completely freaking OP in Arishem right now. Turn 3 is the same thing as 2, unless you can drop a Mockingbird. Sometimes you can. Drop a Mockingbird on... if you can drop a Mockingbird on 3, you should. Turn 4 is Mockingbird, Claw, or Vision, generally speaking. I would generally speaking... Sorry, that should say Vision over Claw. I would generally speaking rather play Vision over Claw. Vision being able to move every turn helps you win or lose priority as you choose to. Next up, turn 5 is usually a 6. That could be Mags, Doom, or Alioth. It's hard to say. If you have priority and you can Alioth off, you know what your opponent's going to do. Obviously, you do that, right? If you can get a clog, then Magneto is amazing. If you just need power, Doom. Shang and Shadow King are also playable together, and sometimes that'll be right as well. Wrecking a Cassandra Nova at this point is very, very often really, really, really strong. Like, it's just more powerful than more points than anything else you can do. Turn 6, the same thing as turn 5, and also you can play Shadow King in a 5. Shadow King and Claw together in particular are insanely strong. So are Shang and... Oh, no Rogue in this. Rogue was in the previous list, excuse me. This list is, again, the best thing I saw. I think this is where Arishem wants to be. I don't think this is the best deck in the meta because it still has too many Predators, but I think this is the most powerful deck in the meta unless something messes it up. Hopefully that makes sense to everybody. But this is where I am with Arishem. And again, remember, your Season Pass win is agreeing or disagreeing, discussing where you are with Arishem right now. Next up, we have Clog Sersi, and this is the list that ate the Phoenix Force. Phoenix Force just has no shot against this kind of Clog that runs Shadow King. There's too many ways for them to get something in to extra destroy, to mess up the Phoenix Force, to clog a lane so that you can't do extra Nimrod shenanigans, and to just Shadow King off the Phoenix Force when it happens. This list is fundamentally out of the meta, right? But this seems really strong. Desmond had a mill that I was impressed with, and the other list I'm super impressed with is this Clog. They're the things I'm personally most interested in trying here. I think this is really, really interesting. All right. Nico can be Titania or Yellow Jacket, and let's talk about that quickly. If Yellow Jacket, when you play that on a Mysterio clone, it has -1, it'll now travel with Annihilus. And when you play it and then Shadow King, you can get your power back as needed, and it'll pull your Mockingbird below Shang-Chi range. Titania, meanwhile, with White Widow in particular, or with Viper, is a great way to clog the opponent earlier than they would like. Okay. Nocturne and Copycat can be Polaris and Juggernaut, but you're going to need the other high series cards. Sersi and Annihilus and Mockingbird are all needed here. Cool. Sersi, Annihilus, and Mockingbird are like just absolutely needed, as is White freaking Widow. White Widow is very, very, very good. Great card everywhere, but like in Clog, it's just a requirement. Okay, so this absolutely ate Phoenix Force. That's the deck it beat and then had to be retired in the game that I saw it be played. So turn 1, you play Hood. Turn 2, you play Widow or Mysterio. Mysterio makes more sense if you have Sersi or Mockingbird that you're trying to get out. If not, White Widow is amazing. Next up, you can play Nocturne or Viper. Viper, if you play Viper, you're trying to Viper over the Hood or a Mysterio clone. Then you're going to drop Sentry or make a turn 3 play. Turn 5, Mockingbird if you want to Annihilus, because very often that Sentry is clone and is going to be able to, is how you're able to play Mockingbird and another card, say a demon. Or you can just drop Sersi. If you drop Sersi, your Mockingbird is basically free the next turn, and you can play Mockingbird plus other cards. Otherwise, you could just play Annihilus, or you can still play Sersi. They don't go sour by the last turn of the game. One last look at this one. Again, I fully plan to play a bunch of this in the mill to get a really good feel for them, because they're both cool, and I think they're really powerful into a Sandman meta, where just messing with what your opponent is trying to do by giving them a bunch of crap should be very strong. Shadow King also just answers all the thena bullshit that's everywhere. Our last deck of the day is the Sand Patriot. This is what Kazuma won the last game with by playing 2 ridiculously impressive outs the whole game. Again, this is a Sandman meta. I think Arishem is the most powerful deck in the meta. I think Sandman Patriot is the best deck in the meta. It is extremely hard to beat and extremely hard to play around. It can put 16 in any given lane with Patriot and Ultron. Sometimes it doesn't have space for that because of Brood Absorb Man, and then it can just Doom. It's got play into Arishem because of Cassandra Nova and Absorb Man. This is just a really powerful deck that has solid matchups into everything and answers, just straight up beats a lot of the move and bounce shenanigans that are all over the game. So, by the way, I had to stop playing bounce. I just kept getting eaten by Sandman after Sandman after Sandman. My stats for this week are going to be ugly. I got back up to 500, and then I did weekend missions. Not weekend missions. I did, Alliance stuff and started falling. And then I was like, oh, I should reclimb, and played bounce and got smoked by a bunch of salmons. I did not realize how common this was becoming. So Jeff can be Nightcrawler, White Widow here. Jeff is amazing because of Sandman, but not a requirement. Cassandra Nova is the only really way to have play into Arishem, so hopefully you get the card from Deadpool's Diner. Lots of people are donating, so good luck. And Sizer tells me that Wasp should be Blink because that's an extra chance to see one of your power cards. This has a well over 60% win rate in high infinite in a lot of games. Again, this is the best position thing into the meta. Turn 1, you want to pass. Turn 2 is Dazzler over Jeff. Turn 3, Patriot over Cassandra Nova. Obviously, unless it's Arishem, then you're going to go Patriot into Absorb Man. Sorry, Cassie into Absorb Man. But Brood into Absorb Man is great if you don't have Ultron. If you go Brood Absorb Man, then you can still Doom to win that game. Or Blue Marvel and Doom to win that game. Turn 4, Abs on Cassie or Brood. If not that, then you're generally speaking playing Iron Lad. Once in a while you'll drop Patriot. Turn 5 is Blue Marvel or Sandy. And then turn 6 is Doom or Ultron, depending on how much space is on the board, which represents more power. Please note, with Patriot out, 2 Doombots are 8 power. That's more than... Sorry, 2 Ultron clones are 8 power. Good. This is the meta. We'll see how long it lasts, but as of right now, as of the recording of this video, this is the meta. Check yesterday's video for the #1 deck in Marvel Snap. This is the meta. This is the best deck. A version of this is the best deck. Alright, certain tiers of support on our Patreon come with on-air things. If you're interested in checking out our Patreon, the $1 tier has a deck archive, while the $5 tier gets early access to videos, and the $10 tier gets special shoutouts and exclusive weekly videos. So if you're interested, please check out the Patreon. The free tier of the Patreon comes with Alliance membership, so check it out if you're interested. I'd like to say thank you to Abigail Heaslin, Mandatory Burnout, Cables, Matt H, Irregardless, David G. Wingfield, LAB, FaThorNewman, Good Dog Gamer, this... oh no, I didn't change his name. Dios Volt, Inc., I Am Frostman, Jane Evereeds, Corwin, Prime Dryan, Garrett Ixley, Quire, Pyrophoros, The Goat Seeker, Denman Falcon, Quid Pro Joe, Docty, Fat Nick, Ginger Prime, Philip Ratkovich, Haplo, Kenny Loggins of the Danger Zone, Rob Silverman, The Bizza, XRSV and Skip PG, Tommy Nyquist, winner of Snap Jones League Season 1 and sponsor of Season 3, Kinger Bros Bro, Black Dahlia, The Great Kazoo, Jessica Gamble, Ryan Wood, Kev C. Hoda, Lunacris, Archangel 3K, Jean Q, 8th Sage, hey, he just won one. Oh, also Abigail Giesland won one, but in her comment said, hey, just give him, I don't actually want to win. This is just a comment. So someone should say thank you to Abigail. Mod Supreme Models, Darth Tater, Remus Atala, Brian Kaufman, Tristan H. Martin, Jason B., J.D. McDonaldinho. He was on the podcast this week. You should check it out. The Fuzzy Dunlop, Spectrumix, Matt H., DJ Mikey Hijinks, No Frickin' Flex, Ocularis, Mr. Craig Sterry, Seamus, Jonesy, Two Ties, my lines later, the great Lauren Modevs, the Pirate King Tuccrr, the Homie Min, and of course Gunny T, where the T stands for. Check yesterday's video. I'm pretty proud of it, and it's got the current #1 ranked list in Marvel Snap, which is another Sandman list. Check it out. You can compare it to this. It's a different list. You'll like it. Peace.